now proceed with the inaugural ceremony of Careers 360 Indian Legal Education Conclave 2017 with lamp lighting ceremony. And for this, may I introduce and welcome dignitaries to come towards the dais. I humbly invite Dr. R. Venkat Rao, Vice Chancellor, National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. Dr. Rao supported the idea of ILEC 2017 from its formative stage. Mr. Mahesh Sarma, Editor, Careers 360. I also invite Mr. Maheshwar Peri, Founder, Careers 360.
When we started this conclave, a lot of people talked about how a conclave has to be done. You need to have sponsors, you need to have corporate people around, you need to have awards, you need to have case studies, and so on and so forth. I said it's the first thing around, first time. Let's academicians rule the whole thing, because the challenge for us is not about how big the conclave is, but how meaningful the dialogue would be as we move along. When I started my career, I wanted to be a lawyer. My father was in the courts, and my father's brother was a lawyer. And looking at them, I always wanted to be a lawyer. But somewhere along the line, their experience of their own, of what they went through in the legal system, maybe they somehow persuaded me not to get into law. And then as life would have it, I became the publisher for Outlook, faced about 100 defamation cases, and I was always in the courts. And as I kept fighting the system, much of the time, I realized that people who are victims rarely use the system, and people who want to victimize mostly abuse the system. And the proof of the pudding is this, that, as I said, I had about 100 defamation cases against me, many of them criminal. I've been to courts maybe a few hundred times, but I've never been convicted. And all the cases have been, dismissed or are not around for me to deal with. And that keeps coming back to me, saying that we as a nation will survive and prosper for two things. How do we make our system fairer, and how do we make our system efficient? And in both these things, there's only one education system that will work, and that's a legal education system.
Indian higher education system is a fascinating study in contrast. On one hand, we're really massive. 872 universities as we go to press now, about 35,000 colleges, approximately about 6.5 million children getting in every year. It is massive in every sense of the term. But moment you dig further and see how well that system performs, you will invariably find that it actually is a waterfall.
We now begin with the keynote address of Indian Legal Education Conclave 2017. I request Dr. Venkat Rao to deliver his keynote speech.
That era, 47 to 1961, when legal education was nobody's baby, it was elitist in nature. People only from upper strata used to go for this vakil, sanat, all types of business. And people who used to afford, they used to go to London to get what is called as bar at law. A semblance of democratization was initiated with the Advocates Act coming into force in 1961, whereby the body called the Bar Council of India was entrusted with the responsibility of not only maintaining standards in legal profession, but also maintaining standards in legal education. And legal education was brought under the protective umbrella of this organization called Bar Council of India. Where it was no one's baby before 61, the pendulum swung to the other extreme, to such an extent that Palkhiwala in one context said, India had the dubious distinction of producing brilliant lawyers, not because of law colleges, but in spite of law colleges.
One of the basic challenges, we cannot say these are challenges, they are concerns, because concerns can be addressed in an extremely positive manner once you need to identify them. So I was reminded of when I first saw this particular phrase from volume to value. Looking back in around 70s and 80s, Dr. Rao has very elaborately and very efficiently divided these 4 phases. And I was looking into the 4 phases and also of the fact that there used to be a couple of institutions who were performing extremely well at that point of time also. And this was in spite of the fact that there was a huge number of students wanting to take admissions in these institutions. Number of them was really huge because that will surpass the number of students applying for, taking admission in top law in universities even now.
The volume to value, the value part is, to my mind, decided by the markets. Because finally you roll out lawyers, whether they are working in a litigious industry, or in a transaction industry, or with a government, or with a corporate, wherever they go, what is important is how the value has been created is only on the basis of how they are worthwhile for that industry. But at the same time, that value, when we create, we should not loosen the values that should be imbibed on them. That is also important. So if you take these two, and the legal education institutions have a very onerous duty to ensure this.
There are so many challenges that the future has been posing against the human needs, humankind. And humankind see the ray of hope, or humankind see only education as an asset to grappling with all the challenges, because somehow at the end of the day, future challenges are more how we are going to establish a peace in the society, how we are going to establish and reaffirm the freedom of an individual in the society, and how we are going to establish the culture of social justice in the society. And probably the education is the only asset when the humankind look at it. Now when it comes to the legal education, so I feel that law, legal education and development, they all have become an interrelated concepts. Because ultimately law, legal education and development, all putting these 3 things together, ultimately trying to ameliorate the socio-economic conditions of this country. And when we are in a country like India, wherein the rule of law is a driving force, at that point of time, I feel that legal education does have a very prominent role to play.
I take a stand that law school should not worry about employability. Placement is not my concern. I should look at only how to teach, quality teaching, experiential learning, how to learn the practical skills, leave out to them. They have to struggle. They have to prove themselves in the market or in the society or in the public service and other. That's my stand. Maybe some people may not like it. So, but recruitment is another one. Employability we should leave. Our task as the law schools, law colleges and law universities is to prepare them for the legal profession. But what about creating debating skills? That's missing in several of these legal academia. Moot is almost all taken over by several other co-curricular activities. I think it's a high time debating skills, developing a debating skills in the law school that will really help. Purvi said about several issues, and I agree that teacher is not just the old model of information provider. You have to be not only a knowledge, skills, and changing the attitude. Teacher has to inspire, motivate, and also have to mentor. And that requires a lot of outside the class interactions and discussions. Guide them, and I think that's required. Teaching values is a challenge, as Professor Venkatrao has said, and other panelists have also mentioned about even though this professional ethics is a compulsory course, sometime in the final year, the law schools and other law colleges have been offering, but it's required to teach at various levels.
Now I request Dr. Nimesh Chandra, Managing Editor, Careers 360, to please present a memento to the member of the panel.
I go back to what some of the discussions in the first half were about making people lifelong learners and not treating our job as one of disseminating information. I would argue that disseminating information, which is expanding at today's pace, is pretty much an impossibility. That is not even a task that we should aim for. Now, let's take that in context and talk about the entire journey. If we are talking about the student as a product, how do you influence somebody who has no reason or no authority to listen to you? Those are the challenges that life presents. And for example, what we had done with the students is we'd given them simple tasks where they had to approach strangers or peers in their college and write some reviews for them without any return whatsoever, at least not officially. And we thought it was a simple task, so did the students. But when the rounds were complete, I think the consistent feedback we got from students was they realized at that point in time how difficult it is to get somebody to do something for you when there is nothing in it for them. And that was a fundamental learning, which is not something you can teach, say, in a classroom environment, or it is not something you expect a law school or a law firm to teach. But these are values which make the product successful, whether it is in a law firm context or in a legal department context, and I'm sure even whether it is in societal context. So that was one. I think the second one goes back to what we spoke about earlier, which is creativity. It can be kind of taken as a surrogate for divergent thinking, although divergent thinking is a capacity for creativity, but it is something which we so desperately need in today's world and today's times, because the generation that we represent here in this room, all of us belong to a completely different time zone. We carry with ourselves sets of beliefs, which we of course believe are right, because that's what we were born and brought up with. Those are our experiences. But in today's context, we need to think differently. I fully second what has been said earlier, that students come and students are there for a purpose, and the purpose is to teach.
It was John Grisman that all students entered the law school with a certain amount of idealism and desire to serve the public. But after 3 years of brutal competition, we care for the nothing but the right job with the right firm where we can make partner in 7 years and earn big bucks. Yes. If you see all these law firm students, law school students and other premier institute students, they think of, most of them, they think of how they can jump with a small time, how they can earn huge money, how they can promote it to be partner. If that opportunity will not available in a law firm, they can start their own entrepreneur, even if whether they are eligible, whether they are well equipped with the knowledge or not. So I am not discouraging, rather I'll ask them they should well equipped, they should well versed, they have well experience to be partner in 7 years or to earn big bucks. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I now request Dr. Nimesh Chandra to present a token of thanks to the guests. When I was a student, I was preparing for various entrance tests for studying law. A professor told me that you are going to enter a profession where you are supposed to study your entire life. And if you're ready for that, then go ahead.
otherwise go for some other profession. Even being an advocate, I had always been very passionate about teaching. I was once, 5 years before, I was invited as a guest faculty to teach law aspiring students for this CLAT entrance tests and various other tests. While teaching, two of my very bright students came to me almost in tears that, ma'am, the Bar Council of India has removed the age limit, but the national law universities have imposed the age limit, and they are not allowing us to appear for the exam. Now, by that time, they had already wasted 2 years of their life. I asked a question to myself, am I being emotional, or is there something illegal that is going on? The legality of law is concerned, as far as that is concerned. So I went on interpreting all the Advocates Act and the Legal Education Act, and bit by bit I studied the entire thing. Advocates Act did not actually give the power or authority to the BCI or any other college to fix a maximum age limit. So that is why we challenged it. We had challenged it thrice, and by God's grace, thrice we won the petition, and the students were allowed in the respective exams.
I now request Ashish Jha to give a token of respect to.
Why do people go into the corporate sector? I don't belittle it at all. That I don't think all law students should go in for litigation. But I do tell my students that I prefer that we do bring out good leading lawyers of the country. There should be a good majority also going for litigation. But what's the significance of the corporate sector today? We all know that today legal education has assumed greater prominence and significance than in the past. Because when I did LLB, people thought I didn't get admission for MBBS or engineering. But I went out of sheer interest. But still, the impression was the others are the top professions. But today, many are aspiring to be in the legal profession. But we all know that it's with globalization and with the liberalization policy that the corporates or companies came about, and definitely they are today the custodians of, I would say, innumerous resources of the society and the public. In fact, I would say they drive the growth of the economy. And if this is a fact, it is also all the more imperative, or rather mandatory, that they should move then towards the prosperity of the economy, the society, and the nation. And if they are to do so, I believe they require knowledge of the laws. Do you agree with me? If they are to drive the world today, if they are to drive the economy today, they also need knowledge of the law, or they need people with them to team up with them who have knowledge in law. And knowledge of law, both national and international.
How we can create ethics in legal education, or in the words of the seminar, value in legal education. For that, if we look into our legal regime and legal structure in India, and which is followed in internationally also, that where you will look into ethics in legal education. The first one is definitely the ethics of the professions and the professional organization controlling or regulating your profession. That means professional ethics, which is compulsory subject in every law school.
And I remember the classes at Campus Law Center where the capacity was 50 to 60 chairs, and other 50 students were standing in the class. And it's like 100 students attending class where the capacity is only 50 or 60. And I attended almost entire semester like that, our criminal law class of Professor B.B. Pandey or some other lectures. I mean, Professor Mulchand Sharma never took a class in the classroom because the classroom could have not accommodated all the students who were interested in attending his class. So all his classes happened in the auditorium. And we were actually lucky to have them as our professors. The next frontiers in legal education is a very interesting thing. But first of all, I want and I wish, and if Mr. Manan Kumar Mishra would have been here, I would have told him that we need to close at least 500 law colleges. We have 1,400 now. We need to start closing all those mediocre, dubious, substandard institutions which are running in the name of law colleges, and particularly that affiliated college system in most of the state universities. I won't say central universities because they are doing some justice, at least by setting up good law departments. But there is a serious miscarriage in the field of legal education. So the next frontiers, I completely agree with what Professor Verghese told about specialization. Specialization is one thing which is going to be a very, very important area. But for that, we need to have specialist professors.
Thank you very much for your insights. May I ask Mr. Mahesh Sharma to give a token of appreciation to Mrs. Rose Verghese. May I now invite Mr. Ashish Jha to present a token of appreciation to Dr. N.K. Chakrabarty. May I now request Apratim Chatterjee to kindly give a token of appreciation to Anand Prasad Mishra. With this, we conclude the inaugural edition of Indian Legal Education Conclave. We hope the enlightening discussions and debates that took place today will help us in adding more value to the academic and training aspects of Indian legal education. We look forward to the gathering and learning from this conclave and sharing it with different stakeholders in the domain. However, the presence of all of you today assures us that we are on the right path and will surely be able to make Indian Legal Education Conclave a much awaited event in the annual calendar of everyone associated with legal education. Once again, I thank you all participants and delegates for joining us at the Indian Legal Education Conclave 2017. We would like to thank our partners who have supported us in our endeavor. I would also like to thank all the members of the Career 360 team who worked hard to make this conclave a success. Thank you very much.